Hi there, and welcome to the Grief and Rebirth podcast. I'm your host, author and trauma survivor Irene Weinberg, here to encourage you wherever you are in your healing journey. In each episode, I chat with incredible grief and trauma specialists, healers, mediums, and celebs, as well as remarkable people who have inspiring healing stories to share. If you're looking for a podcast that's both uplifting and inspiring, you've found it. Let us help you find your joy in life.
Hi, everyone. I hope this finds each of you so very well. I'm speaking to you today from my studio in West Orange, New Jersey, and I am absolutely delighted to have this opportunity to interview Sydnei Kaplan, who will be speaking to us from Riverwoods, Illinois. Have you ever wished for an appropriate and easy way to talk to children about death? Sydnei, who is a mom, a part-time preschool teacher, and a writer, has written a truly lovely children's picture book titled The Heaven Phone, which helps parents of young children navigate the heavy and challenging concept of death and reassures them that we all remain connected forever. In her young adult years, Sydnei received 2 degrees from the University of Michigan, including a Master of Business Administration, and she worked in marketing for 10 years. After having her first child, she found great comfort in connecting with other parents on early 2000-era blogs and message boards. And once her youngest started college, she started a blog called Mom in the Moment to combine her passions for writing, parenting, and helping moms in all seasons of motherhood. And after her mom transition, Sydnei developed a new passion for spirituality and energy healing and became certified in Reiki. I'm looking forward to talking with Sydnei about the different ways we can learn that our souls never die and we remain connected forever, her journey of spiritual discovery after her mom transitioned, the story behind her truly lovely children's picture book titled The Heaven Phone, and more for what is surely going to be an absolutely delightful interview. Hey, Sydnei, a heartfelt welcome to Grief and Rebirth podcast.
Hi, Irene, a big hug.
And sending right back to you. Let's just dive right in and have everybody because you were kind of getting feelings for spirituality when you were very young. So your first experience happened when you were 10 years old, and you woke up and noticed a woman in your bedroom surrounded in shining light. You want to tell us about that experience?
Yeah. So I woke up and looked over, and oftentimes my mom or my dad would come and check on me. And I noticed it was a woman and all in white, and there was shining light around her. And so my first thought was, Mom. But as I looked, all of a sudden I got a little bit scared because it was not my mom, and I wasn't sure who it was, although I had a thought that maybe it was an angel or someone good, but it was still very scary because it wasn't something that, you'd be expecting. And I called out to my mom a little louder, and she came upstairs. And as I looked towards the door to see her coming in and then glanced back, the woman in light was gone.
How was she dressed? I have to ask you, do you remember?
Yeah, it was almost like robes, like very white robes, long robes. And she was smiling, and there was just glowing light around her.
Feels like an angelic presence, honestly, from other people I've interviewed and all. What a blessing. And you also had childhood and spiritual experiences with your grandmother and your aunt after they had transitioned. Do you want to tell us a little about that, Sydnei?
Yes, that was actually more in my young adult, like in my 20s. My grandma on my dad's side passed.
So the angel warmed you up for this one.
Yes. and through that time too, my dad and I, sort of like backing up, we were very interested in near-death experiences. That was sort of just starting to really be talked about. So anytime there'd be an article or a new book coming out, he would tell me a little bit about that, and I would ask lots of questions because I was very interested And for whatever reason, really even then just knew that there was much more than where we were. So I was always excited when he would bring something like that up. But in my 20s, my aunt passed away first, and then my grandma passed away after her. And the first experience I had was a dream visit. I've come to know that the difference between a dream visit when it's somebody who's visiting us from heaven or the other side versus just a dream. And it was with my grandma, and I was
back up. So how do you know that? Have you come to, for those who say, yeah, how do you know that, Sydney? How can they differentiate when they're getting a heavenly visitation during a dream and it's just like a normal?
It's a lot of it is based on feeling, and it's a knowing. And I know that's very vague, and it's probably, there will be a lot of people that will still not quite be able to differentiate once you explain that it is something that you just know or feel inside. But there's a lot of emotion. It's not the typical, when you're dreaming, it's almost like you're watching a story or a movie, and sometimes it makes sense and sometimes it doesn't. And the dream visits, at least for me, have all felt sort of outside of time, very full of emotion, very vibrant, very just different is the only word I can think of to say. It's hard to really, there's not a formula, but it's something that every time I can tell, even if I have a dream with my mom in it, I can tell if it's a dream visit or if it's just I'm dreaming about something and she's in it.
Right.
So I wish I could be more specific.
That's all right. That helps. That's okay.
But with my grandma, I was in an elevator, and I don't remember a lot of the details, but I do remember she came into the elevator, and immediately I recognized then it was sort of like you become more lucid and aware. I realized that this was a dream visit and that I was seeing her from heaven, from the other side, here and now. And she looked younger, she looked healthy, she was smiling. I don't remember the words that we exchanged, but I just remember feeling like knowing we were connecting and exchanging love. And for me, that was enough from that experience.
That's a great validation that she was with you from the other side.
Right. It was really wonderful because before she passed away, my grandfather, her husband, had passed away, and I never saw him in a dream. So this was really, I think, the first dream visit. And then I had one with my aunt that I'm going to say was almost like an out of body experience, although I've never had a full out of body experience, I don't think. But in the dream, I was seeing her and I really wanted to connect with her more and wanted her to stay. And I reached up my hand to hold her hand and we connected, and I was pulling her, she was pulling me. And as that was happening, I woke up and still it felt physical then. And I sort of could see her image before I became really fully awake and aware.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And then there was also a sign you received the day of your father's funeral.
Yes. Yeah. So a little background on that, after my mom had passed away about 20 years ago, I had a dream visit from her within a few days after she passed away, and then lots and lots and lots of them through the years. I journaled and have them all, but I had not gotten any after my father passed away, and I hadn't had any with my mom in a little while. And so I was feeling a little lost, a little disappointed, and really wanted to connect with them. And so I had just put the thought out there to them, how much I loved them, how much I wanted a sign, how much I wished I could connect. And we were leaving the funeral, and my whole family, we were in the car. And I should also explain that signs often come for me in the way of numbers, and very specific numbers like birth dates or a significant date from something that we had done together. My dad's favorite number, which was the number 3. Sometimes I'll see 33333. So they'll come at certain times, and I'll know that I'm getting a sign, and it's not just happenstance. So I had just put out the thought that I love them, I wanted to connect with them, and I saw in succession in front of me on license plates 4/29, which is my mom's birthday. Then 4/21 is my father's birthday. And then I saw 1959, which is the year they got married.
Wow.
So to me, I was getting confirmation, not only were they with me, but that they were together with each other.
That's marvelous.
And I just got a chill again.
Oh my God, that's marvelous.
And so that really helped. That helped a lot.
so validating and reassuring. Wow.
Mhm.
And then I want to ask you, we're leading up to your wonderful book. Please tell us about your childhood relationship with your mom, because I know you had a hard time navigating your young motherhood because she had passed, right?
Yes.
And the book is the Heaven Phone, which is about connecting with grandma. So
right, and the
talk about
pictures,
your mom.
we'll see those later, but the pictures in the Heaven Phone are actually from photos of my daughter and me and my mom. But my mom and I were super, super close. And even, I mean, to the point where I would say we grew to be really close friends. And if she were alive today, she'd probably be my best friend. And we would test each other out, like try to send each other psychic messages and see if we could tell what the other one was thinking. And oftentimes we were able to do that. But we were very close. She was an amazing mother. She was a stay-at-home mom for my brother and me until, I can't remember what year. I feel like it was when I was in high school that she started working again. And she spent all this time with us. She would do fun things with us. She would take us places. Even if we were just hanging out at home and we were cooking or we were talking, there was just a lot of connection. So she was a huge part of my growing up. And I feel like I've gotten that from her and poured all of that into my motherhood. But one of the things you never think about is losing your mom. And I think I even thought how it would be so horrible if I ever lost my mom. I so want her to be with me on this journey. And she passed away.
She is, but she's not physically.
In a different way. Exactly. Yes. So she passed away when my daughter was 5, my son was 2.5. And so I was just sort of getting into my groove of motherhood, and she was a part of it. We, also as a bit of background, my husband and I lived in Atlanta for 11 years. We got married there. So we were there before we were married, got married there, had both our kids there. And when my son was 6 months old, we moved back here. And I remember when I told my mom that was probably one of the most joyous expressions I've ever seen on her face. We were both of us, so thrilled that we were going to be able to be together and she was going to be a part of our lives on a daily basis. So she was, while we were here for 2 years before she passed away. And then I kind of had to find my way through being a mom.
Through the void. She was not there.
Right. Yeah. And, there's, of course, all wonderful people in my life. I'm blessed to have, wonderful family and a great husband and friends, but there's no one like your mom. I think when you're raising your children and, you want to be able to have her share in things and to ask her questions when you don't know, or you're nervous or you're sad. And so that was challenging to adjust to that. And I'll say that over the years, I really do feel like my kids and I are closer almost. We've developed sort of a deeper relationship, probably because of that. My daughter has become my best friend. And sometimes I feel like my mom is channeling through her a lot of times. So
that's beautiful. That's wonderful. And then you began a journey of spiritual exploration after your mother transitioned. Tell us about that.
Yeah, after she passed away, I felt this strong urge to really find her. I had always believed in life after death. I was always into a lot of spiritual stuff, and when I was a kid and a teenager, but I never really researched and explored on a deep level. And at this point in time, I was driven to explore more so I could find where she was, connect with her. And I started researching on the internet for websites or forums where I could talk to other people. And I connected with amazing people, all about the afterlife and about dreaming and dream visits, and really got to talk to other people and learn and grow in that way. And I started reading voraciously so many books. I think I don't remember how many, but a lot of different
books. I can relate. The same thing happened with me when I saw transitions.
I'm sure, yeah, because you want to know, you want to be able to find them again and find out everything about where they are. Hello from Heaven was a really pivotal book for me.
Yes,
I loved
yes,
that.
yes.
And I saw people in workshops. I saw Brian Weiss.
All
I've
that.
seen
But
a
now,
couple.
why couple? But you also became certified in Reiki. What attracted you to that? And tell everyone, for those who are saying Reiki, what's Reiki? You want to
Right,
explain
people are going to say that's a little woo woo, but
yeah.
it's
Well, and
an
on this podcast, you're allowed to be very woo woo. It's okay.
Reiki is an energy healing modality. There's many different ways that we can heal with energy. And I've actually probably drifted a bit away from Reiki over the years. And I feel more in a general way where I connect with energy healing. And the reason I pursued Reiki, I think, was just there were people that were telling me that I was a healer, or when they would shake my hand, they felt healing energy. And this was, I think, at the time I was going to those workshops, and I had seen a psychic, and then there was a workshop on healing that I went to. And I kind of decided, I think I want to take a class in healing. I'd like to try to see if I can learn a little more about it. And I connected with someone who is now a dear friend of mine. She's a naturopath and she's a Reiki master. And she had a class it was me and another woman and her. And we actually certified through 2 levels of Reiki. So I'm not a master, but we learned all about this. It's a hands-on healing, energy healing, where you channel the healing energy from the universe, from God, down through you into the person you're healing.
I'll bet you've helped a few people.
Pardon?
I'll bet you've helped a few people with it too.
Well, and I don't know. That was a question I always asked. I wondered I always felt, am I really doing this? Am I good at it? Is it really working? But then I'll hear, I think it's very subtle. I think healing energy can be very, very subtle, and it can work on us. We can do self-healing, and it can work on others, even when we're not super intentionally giving them a session, I think. It's funny, I've had both my daughter and a couple people tell me that even if they were feeling unwell or something wasn't right, that they have felt better just after being with me, which is, I'm not trying to say that in a bragging way, but that
it's your aura, it's your presence, it's the light. It absolutely lifts their vibration.
And so, that reinforced my belief that every one of us can channel healing energy. We're all healers, and we really just have to be open to that and trust that we can.
I totally agree with you. And then you also share the differing ways that we can learn that our souls never die and that we remain connected forever. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure.
And then you had a dream visit with your mom that confirmed to you that your dream was in fact a visit from your mom. So you want to talk to us about
which should I address first? Which would you want?
Let's talk about the ways we learn that our souls never die.
So for me, the way that I think we can learn that the best is by exploring and reading and learning about spirituality from lots of different perspectives. So maybe learning about near-death experiences, learning about after-death communication, talking to a medium, reading just a little bit about our spiritual nature. There are wonderful books out there, even just about that. And even for people who are drawn from, a religious standpoint, like Kabbalah, I think the more different kinds of sources you check out and you explore, the more you're going to learn and then feel that it's true, because you're not just getting it from a medium. You're getting it from a lot of different sources that all sort of end up saying the same thing. And I read Michael Newton's books, both Journey of Soul.
I did too. It was amazing.
Loved, and that too was another perspective on the origin of our souls, why we come here, who we come here with, and all of those things. They all sort of overlap and reinforce the other, like you were talking before about things collectively build. And so at some point in time, then I think everybody could really come to know that we remain connected, we're eternal.
Right. Well, what's happened for me is I can honestly say that it's all of this has taken away my fear of death.
Yes.
It's given me a passion for taking very good care of myself and respecting myself and my needs, not narcissistically, but because I wanted to do service and I want to keep myself as vibrant and as alive as possible till that time that I cross over.
Yes.
So, you want to tell us, because we remain connected forever, you want to tell us about that dream visit you had with your mom that confirmed that it was a visit from her?
That was early on in my in the dreams I was having with her, and I was questioning a lot. Boy, these really feel like that I'm really with her, but I'm not sure. And how am I going to know? I wish no medium's been able to tell me for sure, and I really wanted to know. So I had this dream, which was probably the only dream at this level that I've ever had where I got evidence. But it was early on, probably within the first year after she passed away. We were getting ready at that time to go visit my father, they had always went to Arizona together, and they had a home, and he was redoing it. He was getting it so that it would be his, trying to clear some of his, the associations with losing her. So anyway, that was all going on, and we were going to be visiting him. And in my dream, our whole family was out to dinner at a restaurant, and my family, there were more of us there. I'm not sure who all was there, but I know my husband went ahead with my kids, maybe with my in-laws, into the other room, into the main restaurant area. And I was standing by the bar waiting to go in, and my mom walked up to me, and she looked wonderful. She looked healthy. They tend to always look very healthy and vibrant and
they bring themselves back to you at their best.
Yes.
Right. Yes.
And so I felt love, and we were smiling, and it was wonderful. And I said hello, and I even recognized that she was coming to me from the other side. And I let her know I knew that I'm really seeing you, but I know that you're not, that, you've passed on. And she smiled, and she looked at me and she said, "I don't like slate." And I looked at her, and I knew we were in a restaurant. And so I said, "Oh, do you mean skate, like the fish?" Because I was thinking maybe she was telling me a menu item she didn't like. And she shook her head and smiled, and she said, "No, I mean slate." And I smiled, and I gave her a hug, and I turned to go walk on into the restaurant thinking maybe she'd come with me. And I woke up. And I wrote that dream down, and I specifically wrote what she said to me on a napkin, actually, because that was what was near to me. And I was just trying to figure out what could that possibly mean. And that night, I was having a conversation with my dad about us coming to Arizona. And my kids were little. My son was probably 3 at that point in time. And my dad said to me, "We're getting the house ready. I want it to be all good for your visit. And I have to tell you, I'm putting in slate floors. And I'm a little concerned about Ben. I don't want him to trip and hurt himself. We'll have to put blue tape or something in areas where he could." So, of course, where
I'm getting chilled, of course.
And I have the chills again. So I told my dad, I said, "You aren't going to believe this." And I told him what happened. And he, his first comment was, "Wow." And then he said, "Well, maybe I shouldn't be doing the floor." But he did do the floors, and we did visit, and my son did not hurt himself. But from that moment on, the dream visits, I just knew, I could tell when she was really visiting me and when I was just sort of dreaming and it was just a dream.
Right. But what a blessing, because what she did with that, she not only let you know that she was around you, but she let your father know that she knew what he was doing and she was right around him. Yes. And that was probably the purpose for that. Now we're building up to your wonderful book. And your mom's passing sparked the creation of your book, The Heaven Phone.
Yeah.
And so I want to know about the book and about how the term The Heaven Phone came to be.
Okay, so the book actually was written sort of in stages. And it started out where I probably just wrote like a little poem in the years after my mom had passed away, thinking and reflecting on what had happened, but never did anything with it. But it stemmed from the fact early on, my dad, we spent tons of time with him after my mom had passed away, and he would babysit for the kids. And he was with my daughter getting her ready for bed. And she asked him, "Do you ever talk to Nana?" And he said, "All the time." And she said, "Well, can she hear you? And can you hear her?" And he said, "Yes." And she said, well, how?" And he said, sometimes you can hear her in your heart. It's different than hearing her with words. And she said, do you have to talk out loud? And he said, no, you could think it in your head. You could talk out loud, but she'll hear you either way. And probably a few nights after that, when I was putting her to bed, she brought up that conversation to me and said that she was talking with her papa about that and asked what it was like to talk to Nana. And I told her to imagine using one of her toy phones when she would talk to any of her imaginary friends. And I said she could use that even if she wanted to talk to her Nana, but that whatever she felt in her heart, Nana would know, and Nana could send her message back just that same way. But because I had used that little phone example, she said, oh, do you mean like a heaven phone? It's like, yes, that's a perfect way to describe it. It's like a heaven phone. And again, I didn't really do anything with as far as a book went at that point in time. This book was actually just published a year ago. So it took all that time, the little poem that I wrote, reflecting on the experience. And I finally pulled it together into a rough format of what you see in the book. And I thought I was feeling nudged to try to publish it. And I've written for blogs and for online publishing sites, but I have never thought I would ever publish a book. But I sent it to a publisher, and it was accepted, and we edited it. And
I'm gonna hold up the. It's so adorable. I'm gonna hold.
Oh, and the illustrations are absolutely beautiful.
Illustrations are marvelous, and it really helps. The thing that I really love about it is that it's written for young children, but it can also help older children, adults dealing with loss, and even caregivers who need to help a child with grief. So you want to talk a little bit about that and anything else you'd like our audience to know about your book?
Well, I think mostly and first and foremost, I wanted parents to be able to give comfort to their children the way we gave comfort to ours. Because the year after we lost my mom, we lost my father-in-law. So we talked a lot about what you hear in the book, which is that we remain connected. Our loved ones never, death is not really what you think it is. And, not even from a specific religious standpoint, we wanted them to know as the soul they are eternal, and your loved ones are still there with you, and you can talk to them anytime you want. So I wanted other parents to be able to do that for their children, because it did. My kids both from a young age had a very comfortable, I feel, understanding of what had happened. They weren't scared necessarily of.
What's so wonderful about that, because I think in so many families, death is never mentioned,
right,
never broached, and the children are left to draw conclusions. And in a way, your book is so wonderful because it can help direct them to
a conversation.
Yeah, and feeling safe about what happened.
Right. And I included some conversation starters and ideas for activities that parents can do with kids in the back of the book, because I would like it to be a jumping off point for them to have more conversation, to encourage questions, to do activities to help their kids to feel, to just not be scared and to feel at peace and to find the answers that they're looking for.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, it's something that someone, oh my God, this is happening. You could even read it before the event, so a child is not afraid when the event actually happens.
Right.
Is there anything else you'd like everyone to know about that? Go ahead.
Really just that I would love for us all to be able to talk about, just like the experiences that you've had, and staying connected with Saul, knowing that there's a very thin veil between this side and the other side, where they're always around us.
They're around us.
It's like a different vibration, and we're not, we don't have to be scared. It's not, everybody makes you feel like it's taboo, or, that you shouldn't try to connect, and you should only, there's a limit to what some people are willing to talk about when it comes to that subject. And I'd like to take away that taboo, and for people to be encouraged to learn more about our greater spiritual nature. And
with a tool like your book, instead of growing up with a fear, the kids grow up with an acceptance.
Right.
And I actually do the same thing with my grandchildren. I talk with them very openly about it, and I say one day Gaga's going to leave her bodysuit, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to be all around you. Believe me, and all that. We talk about that. And what is Sydney's important tip for finding joy in life?
Well, probably I've got a couple of things all playing together, but I believe in being present, gratitude, always finding something that you're grateful about, and lots of things actually, because all you have to do is look around and focusing on what you're grateful for and on this moment, and really soaking in your loved ones, soaking in time with your loved ones. You don't want to let that time go by where you don't really appreciate them, spend time with them, talk with them, because you never know when their time is going to be to leave.
One day you may have to talk with them through the heaven phone.
That's right.
There
That's
you
right.
go.
And it's good, but it is different. So
Yes, yeah. But Sydney, the heaven phone really does serve as a beautiful parenting tool that can help a child to process a loss, especially with lines like these. Then I talk and listen with my heart, not my ears. And I feel Nana's words and her love for me. The heaven phone describes with simplicity and a lovely rhyming cadence how, while we may not be physically with our loved ones anymore, and we are unable to hear their voice, we are always able to connect with them through our heart. It is a great gift for any child or family going through a grieving period, and I love how this beautifully illustrated picture book quickly pulls the reader in with its charm and its comforting reassurance. The heaven phone is also relatable to all faith perspectives, and I really like that. And without being over, it reassures its readers, young and old, that death is not the end. Thank you from my heart, Sydney, for this truly delightful, comforting, and really meaningful interview today. And I am sure people are going to get your book to have as a resource for their children, their grandchildren, or maybe for themselves. And here is a loving reminder, everyone, that you can see the show notes and all Grief and Rebirth podcast episodes on ireneweinberg.com. And make sure to follow us and like us on social at Irene S. Weinberg on Instagram, Facebook, and wherever you get your podcasts. As I like to say, to be continued. Thank you from my heart, Sydney.
Thank
many
you.
blessings, many blessings, and bye for now.
Bye. Thank you. Mwah.